In 60 AD, the mighty Roman Empire seemed invincible. But on the edge of Britain, a queen rose from tragedy to defy the greatest power on earth. Her name was Boudica. In 60 AD, Britain had been under Roman rule for less than 20 years. Some tribes resisted fiercely. Others, like the Iceni in eastern England, struck uneasy alliances. Their king, Prasutagus, ruled as a client of Rome. When he died, he hoped to protect his family and kingdom by leaving half his wealth to the Emperor Nero and half to his daughters. But Rome saw only weakness. They annexed Iceni lands outright. Centurions looted estates, and the family of the king suffered brutal humiliation. His kingdom was ravaged by centurions, his household by slaves. His wife Boudica was scourged, his daughters outraged. This was the breaking point. Boudica, widow of Prasutagus, was not content to submit. While the Romans and their governor, Gaius Suetonius Paulinus, were distracted by a continued campaign of conquest on the Isle of Mona, a plot to undermine their empire was afoot. Boudica had called upon the Iceni to rise and found allies among the Trinovantes and other tribes embittered by harsh Roman rule. Cassius Dio claimed Boudica and her forces employed the use of divination. It was believed she released a hair from her dress, observing the direction it ran as guidance for her forces. Upon the invocation of Andraste, the goddess of victory, their campaign was set in motion. The revolt began at Camulodunum, modern Colchester. There stood a symbol of Roman power in the form of a massive temple to the Emperor Claudius. To locals, this was a symbol of resentment, as its construction had come at great cost to the populace. In a grand feat of wrath, Boudica's forces besieged the city. Standing forces under the command of Quintus Petilius Cerealis were outmatched and defeated by overwhelming numbers. Only the commander and a small number of cavalry managed to escape. The city was left vulnerable, with only auxiliary troops in position. Temple defenders held out for 2 days before the city was reduced to ash. In the turmoil, Catus Decianus, the man responsible for the brutal conditions which led to the uprising, fled to Gaul, sparking panic among the wealthy citizens and traders of the region. From there, the army moved with haste to their next target, Londinium, now London. As they marched on, word of Boudica's deeds had reached the ears of Suetonius. Londinium, a new and thriving commercial hub, was strategically evacuated by the governor in an effort to gather forces for a counterattack. The city was left with little defense, awaiting a vicious fate. The most influential members of the city had already fled following the initial rumors of Catus's desertion to Gaul. What few inhabitants remained were quickly overrun by Boudican forces as the city was burnt to the ground. Even today, traces of retribution can be found in a distinct red layer of ash, littered with coins, pottery, and debris that once belonged to the Romans. The Briton army continued their path of destruction to the northeast. Verulamium, modern St. Albans, was the next city to meet the same fiery fate. Tacitus describes the brutality. Nothing was spared by fire and sword. Those who had been taken prisoner were hanged, burned, or crucified. By some accounts, as many as 70 to 80,000 Romans and their allies were slain. Despite their losses, Rome remained undeterred. Suetonius had rallied and regrouped with approximately 10,000 troops. Legionaries, auxiliaries, and cavalry. The final battle would unfold at an unknown site, often thought to be near Watling Street. Outnumbered many times over, the Romans had relied on their military discipline and well-chosen terrain. They set up position in a narrow defile, backed by woods with open plains to their front. This left little choice for the Queen's assembly of soldiers. Boudica's forces, vast but less organized, hemmed themselves in with their own supply wagons, leaving no room for maneuver. Families of her troops sat upon the wagons to observe the fateful battle, under the assumption that victory was assured. Despite the size of her forces, disadvantages from years of disarmament by Romans had finally reared their head. In Annals, Tacitus describes the defeat of Boudica's army. The legion kept their ground, and having exhausted their javelins with deadly effect, advanced in wedge formation. The Britons, hemmed in by their own wagons, found escape impossible. It was a glorious and memorable victory. The Britons were massacred. Tacitus claims 80,000 were slain against a force of just 400 Romans. Historians, however, believe these numbers to be embellished. Following the disastrous outcome of the battle, Boudica did not live to see Rome's coming vengeance. Some say she took poison to avoid capture. Others that she simply fell ill and died soon after. Her revolt had come close to driving Rome out of Britain, but in the end, it reinforced their grip. Roman rule would continue for another 300 years. Yet, the warrior queen endured. To later Britons, she was not just a rebel, but a symbol of defiance against an imposing empire.